Nirvana is one of the very few bands that didn't become the voice of an entire generation because they tried to. If anything, they almost seemed uncomfortable with the whole idea. Looking back now, that probably made people connect with them even more. There was something refreshing about seeing three musicians who looked like ordinary guys instead of larger-than-life rock stars. They didn't arrive wearing colorful outfits or acting like they were partying all the time. They simply played loud music and ended up changing the direction of rock music in only a few years. That's still pretty insane to think about considering how short their career actually was. One of the reasons I always associate Nirvana with a certain feeling rather than just their music is because of the era they belong to. Whenever I put on an old live performance or one of their music videos, my brain immediately jumps to old VHS tapes. Watching an old Nirvana concert on a worn out tape feels more authentic than just seeing the exact same performance cleaned up in ultra high definition. Maybe that's just nostalgia talking, but there is something incredibly cozy about that whole aesthetic. It reminds me of a time when discovering music felt slower and a bit more exciting because you couldn't instantly look up every interview or every live performance ever recorded. The early 90s also arrived at exactly the right moment. By the end of the 80s, rock music had become oversaturated and very generic. Hair metal bands were everywhere and everything felt bigger than life itself. Giant stages, giant hairstyles, over-the-top guitar solos, and music videos that look like the wildest shit you've ever seen. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, because I actually enjoy plenty of music from that era. In fact, I love hair metal a lot, but after a while, it all started looking very similar. The reason hair metal blew up in the first place was because it used to be dangerous, edgy, and pissed off parents, conservative Christians, and the PMRC.
Many things.
Oh, yes, it has. Among them, corrupting the nation's youth, turning them onto drugs, the practice of premarital sex.
Plenty of people tried to ban that music and it felt like a war zone, but once the PMRC got its ass kicked by Dee Snider and the genre became extremely mainstream, it lost its edge and became overly manufactured. Then Nirvana appeared wearing old jeans, flannel shirts, and cardigans that looked like they had been lying around the house for years. Compared to everything else happening at the time, they almost looked like they didn't belong in the music industry at all. That's probably one of the reasons they stood out so much.
I'm so ugly, that's okay, 'cause so are you.
They weren't trying to outdo everybody else by being louder, bigger, or more glamorous. They almost looked like they couldn't care less about any of that, and that attitude ended up being far more interesting than all the glamour that came before them. I also think people sometimes forget just how massive Nevermind really was. Today, everyone knows Smells Like Teen Spirit, but because the song has been played for decades, it's easy to lose sight of the impact it had back then. It wasn't simply another successful single, it completely changed what record labels were looking for. Suddenly, every company wanted to find another band from Seattle. Every new group was compared to Nirvana, and every musician with a distorted guitar suddenly had people wondering if they were going to be the next big thing. The funny part is that most of those bands completely missed what made Nirvana special in the first place. You can copy someone's clothes or the way they tune their guitars, but you can't manufacture the right moment in history. Nirvana happened because everything somehow came together at exactly the right time. Another thing I've always liked is how unpolished they often sounded during live performances. Some performances sound incredible while others are a little rough around the edges, but that's part of their charm. You get the impression that you're watching actual people making music instead of watching a production that has been rehearsed down to the smallest details. The MTV Unplugged performance has always been one of my favorite examples of that. Instead of turning it into a greatest hits concert, they played songs that many people didn't expect and mixed in covers that introduced a lot of listeners to artists they might never have heard otherwise. Everything about that performance feels incredibly intimate. The stage decoration almost looks homemade, the lighting is warm, and the whole concert has a calm atmosphere that makes it stand out from most live albums.
This is her first record. Most people don't own it. I need an easy friend, I do, with a bed to land. Come as you are, as you were, as unknown enemy.
Watching it today is also a strange experience because you know how the story ends only a few months later. There is a sadness hanging over the performance now that obviously wasn't there when it originally aired, and I think that's one of the reasons people still go back to it so often. Kurt Cobain became someone a lot of people saw themselves in, even if they had completely different lives. He never came across as someone who enjoyed the spotlight all that much. Whether that impression reflected reality perfectly is beside the point, because that's how millions of people remember him. Compared to many rock stars before him, he didn't seem untouchable. He looked awkward during interviews, appeared uncomfortable with fame, and often gave the impression that he'd rather be somewhere else. Ironically, that made him feel more genuine than musicians who always had the perfect answer ready for every interviewer.
They get paid a lot of money for pretending and prescribing you different drugs, and I just haven't bothered to come up with any ideas lately. I've been on tour and I haven't been thinking of anything other than just concentrating on touring. I just don't want to bother with it right now.
It's also interesting how Nirvana became much bigger than just music. Whenever people think about the early 90s, chances are they'll picture flannel shirts, Seattle, old MTV broadcasts, and distorted guitars somewhere along the way. Even films and television shows set during that period often lean into those images because they instantly communicate what era you're looking at. Nirvana ended up becoming part of the identity of the decade itself. Very few bands ever reach that point where they stop being remembered purely for their songs and instead become shorthand for an entire period in popular culture.
The music of Seattle is as progressive as the people. Listen to Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Screaming Trees, Tag, Alice in Chains, or Mudhoney. Catch Candlebox at Rock Candy, or hang at the Crocodile Club. Where else can you get the Seattle sound? Best Buy. They don't sell flannel, but they do sell thousands of CDs for under $10.
Like Eric Clapton's new release, From the Cradle, for $9.96. Some places are known for great music. Best Buy is one of them.
Looking back now, I honestly think part of Nirvana's lasting appeal comes from the fact that their story never had the chance to slowly fade away. There were only 3 studio albums, no endless reunion tours, and no gradual decline over several decades. At the same time, it also means that every old concert recording, every interview, and every grainy VHS clip feels like a little snapshot of a very specific moment in history that will never exist again. Maybe that's why Nirvana still connects with so many people all these years later. Their music belongs to an era that feels increasingly distant, yet every old recording manages to bring a tiny piece of it back for a few minutes.
You know, have fun.
Smoke pot.
Smoke pot, drink beer, booze,